So hi there everyone, it's Anna again, and this is the second stage of putting the leaf motifs into the Godrevy design. On this one I'm going to show you where we put this pale coloured outline on the leaves, and then we'll attach it to the little stem that we made on row 37. So our 3 leaves are going to finish up attached like that. Now I always find it useful because when you've outlined all the leaves, they're all in a bundle in your hand, and you suddenly have to juggle them and pick that up and get stitches around this and into that. So I like to just find that chain 2 at the top and stick a spare crochet hook just so I know where I'm heading. It does make life a lot easier. And also you'll notice I've turned the blanket around so that the stem is facing me, because when I've got them all joined up I'm going to be holding them this way and working into that. So it's just useful to know before you start. Now make sure all your leaves are the right way up, obviously, with the chains coming up in this sequence. And put a loop on your hook, and don't, as I did previously, use the wrong sized hook. So we pick up the first one, and do you remember we made those 2 chain 2s at the top? So on the left hand one we're going to put in a double crochet, and basically we're going to outline them by going in alternative stitches with a chain 1 between. So I'm going to make a chain 1. The next DC we skip that stitch and we go into the first of those increased stitches and carry on up the side. I hope you can see that all right, because I'm still learning the art of this YouTubey thing. It's all very technical. And that's the last stitch on that side. Now we've got the chain 2 there, but we're going to make another chain before we get there, and then we'll put the double crochet, chain 2, double crochet in there, make a chain 1, and remember we're going into the next stitch, we're not skipping one coming back down here. So we go into the first stitch, chain 1. So you should have 6 stitches along the side, not counting the ones you put in the tip. And 1 in there, and 1 in there, and the last chain 1, and then skip the last double crochet and put 1 into that last chain 2 that we finished up last time. Now to move to the next leaf we're going to put a chain 1 between them, let that go, get your yarn to the back, and then start again in the next one. Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. So we are going to skip that one and work into that one. Did I put a chain 1 in that? Yes I did. And carry on around. Now this is a technique that, okay, I'm showing you on a specific design, but it's a useful thing to know, the process of this, in case you want to add loose shapes in to another design, or you know, maybe you might be designing yourself and you just wonder how to go about it, and these are the kind of stages you need to think about when you're designing. And believe me, you do need to make an awful lot of variations before it comes right, because I think I made these leaves in about 6 different ways to start with before they actually laid the way I wanted them to 4 rows on. So be warned. Designing's great fun, but it can be very frustrating and repetitive. So I've done that one, let that go, pick the third one up and get out of the way. Yarn at the back, and there's our first loop. Oh. That one. That one. So it isn't particularly fiddly once you get the knack of what you're doing with it, but it's just a case of going at your own pace, and don't expect it to be a quick round to do, because if you haven't quite sussed it out, it can take a fair few minutes. I know the first couple of attempts I was absolutely ages, and I was sort of estimating, oh, it's like 2 hours to do a round and put all the leaves in, which actually I think the last time I managed to do it in about 40 minutes. So it's not really that arduous a section to do. It's just I wanted to make the video because there's certain bits that are a lot easier to actually demonstrate to you than attempt to describe it in words. Right, last stitch on the third one, that's the last double crochet. Now just make a chain one so you've got something to play with, and we're going to make sure they're all the right way round. So I'm just going to gather up the bottom, and how I'm going to do that is in that last double crochet, go across there, and the first one you made the other side, can you see? And we're going to slip stitch that together to close it up, and that gives a nice little scoop shape as well, so it's slightly three-dimensional when it's finished. Now this is where the juggling bit comes in, because now we're going to work behind that and into that loop, and we're going to make 2 of these connections between each of the leaves. So I'm taking my hook out, right, so that's underneath, and then come up from behind and through that chain 2, and then bring your yarn through and make a nice firm double crochet there. Pulled the yarn a bit there, but you see what I've done here? So it's connected over that chain 1 between the leaves, and it's gone into the loop at the top of the stem. So then the second leaf, we pick up the first stitch and the last stitch and run a slip stitch through that lot, and then we've got this chain 1. So again, round the back and into that chain 2. I'm stabbing blind here, like so, preferably not through the first leaf. It's quite easy to get tangled if you're not paying attention. So double crochet, and then the last leaf. Now just make sure you haven't twisted it as you pull it back round, so your tail where you started is over here, and we're going to do the last slip stitch to gather that one in, oops, and through that, and slip stitch through that, and then we can cast off. Let me just chop the tail off. There we go, and there we have it, and it's now attached in a nice little trifoil shape. Now what I will say with this is you've just got a single row of this colour, and I found it much easier to not weave these bits in until you finish the next section, the next row, because if you weave them in now, you have a really strong possibility of dragging them out when you're working the next row. So I recommend you actually leave them and do that little tiresome job when you've got everything attached properly to the blanket in a couple of rows. Anyway, that is stage 2 complete. So we've got our leaves attached to the blanket, and then we'll go round with the next colour, and I'll show you how they're shaped then to start lying as we want them to in the overall design. So see you in the next clip. Bye for now.